Today, I'm going to be comparing Red Dead Redemption 1 and Red Dead Redemption 2 using different categories to scientifically prove which is the better game. 95% of my viewers are unsubscribed, so if you'd like to see more content like this, please subscribe. Starting off with the atmosphere of the two games, Red Dead Redemption has one of the best atmospheres out of any game I've ever played. Red Dead Redemption 2 is a great game, but the one thing that I feel like Rockstar really messed up on, in my opinion, was losing the Western feel of the first game. There are still moments of like it being a Western, but the fact that you're in an area that's basically green all the time, everywhere you go in Red Dead Redemption 2, except for the epilogue, is all like green and lush, and it's all these different environments, which is really cool, but it loses the whole Western vibe of the Red Dead Redemption series. Red Dead Revolver, clearly a Western game. Red Dead Redemption 1 is a Western game, but Red Dead Redemption 2 is more of this action-adventure game with some Western themes, while you have Red Dead Redemption 1 is a Western game first with these action-adventure themes. So it's like kind of a flip around for them both. But the whole game of Red Dead Redemption 1, you and John learn who to trust. It's kind of like in a Western where there's one main character and you are like seeing the game through their eyes. Arthur's already met every single person in Red Dead Redemption 2, so you're kind of seeing it from the other way around where he's already doing stuff and he already knows these people and John doesn't, and that's why it's way more of a Western in Red Dead Redemption 1. I feel like that's what adds so much more to the atmosphere in Red Dead Redemption 1. I know a lot of people say, oh my god, you get so immersed in Red Dead Redemption 2, and that is true, but that's more of like you going off and doing your own things. It's not about like Arthur Morgan. You're not getting immersed as Arthur Morgan in the game, because that clearly is a different character from you. So I feel like just the atmosphere in the game and like the fact that it totally embraces being a Western, to me, has to put the atmosphere, and it has to go to Red Dead Redemption 1. So they're going to start up 1-0. Next up, I've got the side characters. And while I believe that Red Dead Redemption 1 has some great side characters with Irish, Seth, Landon Ricketts, and a lot of these other characters in the game, like Bonnie and all of them, the Van der Linde gang is just so much more diverse, and it just fleshes out every single character with their own story. Red Dead Redemption 1 focuses a lot on these insanely outlandish characters like Irish, Seth, and Nigel West Dickens, and these guys are just like over the top. They're not real people. Like, these people don't really exist in real life. They're just taken to such extremes where it's like Nigel West Dickens is just the most con man, and it's like Trelawney in Red Dead Redemption 2 is like similar in that same way, but he just doesn't have that like super slimy feel like Nigel West Dickens does. Trelawney is a lot more grounded, and he feels like this real person, especially when you see that he has a family, and they're just every single character in Red Dead Redemption 2 is like that. You get to go in the epilogue and you get to meet Tilly again, you get to meet Mary Beth again, you get to meet Rains Fall again, and it's like every single character has a lot more depth to them that you don't even see in the game. Even Molly O'Shea, who I think is one of the worst characters in Red Dead Redemption 2, has a lot of depth to her that you can get from reading the poems that she writes and just, seeing a lot of stuff in the game. And I feel like no character in Red Dead Redemption 1 has that, just because it is a lot more of a linear game and it's not about exploring these other characters, it's more about exploring John. But I just don't think that works as well. And it's like, while you do have that Western feel in Red Dead Redemption 1, you really lose out on these characters because they don't really add anything to that. And you don't get to develop a lot of them. A lot of the Van der Linde gang members get, whole new interactions in the epilogue. And just, there's so much depth with every single character. So I feel like it definitely has to go to Red Dead Redemption 2. There's just way more depth in every single character, and everyone has like a secret backstory or just something that you can find out by playing the game or just like reading more about the game. So this one definitely has to go to Red Dead Redemption 2. The next category I did was story structure / story presentation, and Red Dead Redemption 2 could have had one of the best in media res, which is like when they start in the middle of a strong event, when they were doing the Blackwater heist. If they started Red Dead Redemption 2 in the middle of the Blackwater heist, where you're playing as Arthur and you're trying to fight off the guards to save these people you don't even really know at that point, and then it builds from there, I feel like that could have been even better of a game. Like, you're not going to see any of the Blackwater heist, but you do get to see like the aftermath, and that's where it starts. But I think Red Dead Redemption 2 does have a solid start to the game. Like, it's okay. You kind of build this stuff. But I think just the whole story being about Arthur, there's not really any clear goals in all of Red Dead Redemption 2 until it's like, oh, let's get to Tahiti. And I think that's basically in the third chapter. And the fact that you don't really get to understand the whole point of the game until the third chapter is kind of a pitfall, in my opinion. Well, the thing is with Red Dead Redemption 1, you kind of get to see that John needs to kill Bill right away. People want Bill dead, and John needs to do this to get his family back. And it's a pretty, like, soon thing, and I feel like the fact that Red Dead Redemption 1 is a more linear story where the stuff is kind of a lot more, it, like, makes sense. Like, you know what John wants to do. You don't really know what Arthur wants to do. You don't really know the point of the story until the end of the story for Red Dead Redemption 2. And I feel like that all ties it together nicely, but I think the structure of Red Dead Redemption 1, just because it is a lot more linear of a story, just puts it a little bit higher in that, like, presentation, in the presentation or story structure. So I think Red Dead Redemption 1 is going to have to win the story structure, presentation, whatever you want to call it, but this one's definitely going to Red Dead Redemption 1. Next up, I've got the main gameplay, and in my opinion, the core gameplay mechanics, like the shooting, the riding, and all that, are a bit better and tighter in Red Dead Redemption 1 than Red Dead Redemption 2. And the only problem I have with Red Dead Redemption 2 is that there's so many different, like, core gameplay mechanics, if you want to call it that. There's like the food, there's like all these different things that you have to focus on while you're playing the game, and it kind of takes away from the actual, like, shooting, stealth, whatever you want to call, like, the core gameplay mechanics. And I feel like because there's so many different things you have to focus on, and because they put so many things out there, and all of them are super realistic in their own right, they just don't get enough time to dive into just the main stuff. And I feel like it's not as tight as it is in Red Dead Redemption 1. Like, I think the shooting mechanics and all that work so much better in Red Dead Redemption 1. And when you do actually get into a fight in Red Dead Redemption 2, I feel like it's pretty, like, boring for the most part, is what I'm saying, because they just kind of repeat the fights over and over again. You're kind of in a field shooting against people, or you're, like, in a tighter area shooting against people. And I think in Red Dead Redemption 1, they have a lot more variation in the actual missions, where you'll, like, be climbing into a fort and you'll be shooting people out there, or you'll be using a sniper. And it's like there's a lot more variation in the actual fights, and there's a lot more, like, progression in the fights, where you go from one thing and you, like, climb up to an area, and then you finally get into that final area, and then that's where there's, like, the standoff. And I feel like that works so much better in Red Dead Redemption 1 than Red Dead Redemption 2, because of course they did focus on the story aspects in Red Dead Redemption 2, and you can see that in a lot of the other parts of the game, but, like, they kind of took away from the core gameplay features. And I see, and, like, I understand that's probably why a lot of people don't like the game or think it's, like, super slow. It's because they kind of took away from, like, the normal, like, boring, or, like, the normal fun things that, like, you'd want to do as a regular player, and they gave it more to the story, which I totally understand, but it's like it kind of turns off some of those casual players. But just in general, I think the main gameplay is 100% going to go to Red Dead Redemption 1. The next thing I compared them on was their other content, and this one is so clear to me. It's not even close, because Red Dead Redemption 1 does have some interesting stuff with, like, the bounty missions, and there are, like, a couple random encounters that you can get into, and just, like, there's some other things that you can explore. I mean, of course, for an open world game, there's a solid amount of stuff that you can do outside of, like, the actual thing, especially when you have cool games like Liar's Dice, poker, and all these things that can't even be done in Red Dead Redemption 2. But there's just so much other stuff that you can find in the actual world that's so much more interesting in Red Dead Redemption 2 than Red Dead Redemption 1. There are, like, a lot more side games in Red Dead Redemption 1, like, especially when you can, like, do the night watch and whatnot, and, like, there's a lot of cool things that wise. But Red Dead Redemption 2 has so many random encounters that aren't even marked as, like, stranger encounters. Like, there's, like, the killer prostitute, there's the serial killer, there's just, like, the strange man, there's all these things that you can do that aren't even marked on the map, and they're just things that you go out and explore and find that way. And I feel like that is what makes Red Dead Redemption 2 an insanely good game, because it's just this immersion in that sense, where it's like you're going out and you're just a person in the world. Like, you're not making a big difference on the world when you're not doing these missions. So it's like you're going out there and you're just going to find stuff, and there's just such a nice sense of, like, exploration and just, like, being the first one to be someplace, and then you find something cool. And it's just, I don't know, it's such a great game in that sense. And that is why Red Dead Redemption 2 has just so much better in, like, the other content section, and definitely has to win this category. Next up, I've got the side antagonist, and while I think Dutch from Red Dead Redemption 1 is the best side antagonist out of the two games, and probably one of the best side antagonists out of any game, like Dutch being in Red Dead Redemption 1, he literally steals the show. I mean, I don't know. I played Red Dead Redemption 1 after Red Dead Redemption 2, so there could have been like a little bit of like, oh my god, Dutch is such a good character in Red Dead Redemption 2, but Dutch is just such a great character in Red Dead Redemption 1 as well, and I think really just steals the show in his couple scenes. So I think that he is one of the greatest characters, but at the same time, Colm O'Driscoll, Angelo Bronte, Catherine Braithwaite, the Gray family, there's so many good developed characters in Red Dead Redemption 2 that are these like side antagonists. They're the antagonists of one chapter, or like, you know, maybe a little bit longer than that, but they have so many ambitions and ideas that you as a player can understand why they're like actually opposed to the Van der Linde gang and why they should be like attacking or fighting against the Van der Linde gang. And there's just not that in Red Dead Redemption 1. Like, you know, of course, Bill and Javier like want to save their own lives, but they're only in the game for like a couple missions each. And they are really just looking out for their own skin. I feel like there's not enough development of the characters and of the actual side antagonists in Red Dead Redemption 1 to give me like to make me put it over Red Dead Redemption 2 when they actually have so much development with every single character. So this one, the side antagonist, is also definitely going to have to go to Red Dead Redemption 2. Next up, I've got the Stranger missions, and Red Dead Redemption 2's Stranger missions again just blow Red Dead Redemption 1's out of the water. While there might be one amazing Stranger mission in Red Dead Redemption 1 with the Strange Man, and that is still a very, very talked about Stranger mission today, especially because he's like in Red Dead Redemption 2 in some form, and they're like, he kind of does look like Trelawney as well. But Red Dead Redemption 1 is just so much worse in a lot of cases, just because a lot of the Stranger missions just all like follow the same kind of pattern where you bring someone to something and then there's just this random weird ending where they either die or someone else dies, or they're just like, I don't know, there's always these creepy, dark, like sad vibes in every single one. There's never really a happy ending in any of them. And Red Dead Redemption 2 just has these like such wholesome moments where Arthur gets to build his friendship with these people, or John gets to continue a friendship where Arthur was friends with those people. And it's just so amazing to see like actual friendships built in the game and not these just like creepy, depressing vibes that all the Red Dead Redemption 1 stuff had. And while I think the Red Dead Redemption 1 stuff does very much fit the like Western vibes that the game is trying to give off and these like creepy, like scary, dark undertones, I feel like Red Dead Redemption 2 did a lot better with it, because you took all those like creepy, weird things and you put them as like these other content stuff where it's like you can find it out in the world, and there is still like a lot of creepy and weird stuff, and there is still some interesting ones like Francis Sinclair and like Jeremy Gill where there is more of that creepy, dark undertone. But a lot of the main Stranger missions actually help to build Arthur's story, and I feel like that's why Red Dead Redemption 2's Stranger missions are just so much better than Red Dead Redemption 1's Stranger missions. The next category I chose was the ending of the two games, and like I said in the John versus Arthur video, go check that out if you haven't. Red Dead Redemption 1's ending is a great act of revenge where you see Jack, you know, seeing his father murdered basically in front of him, and seeing his father basically sacrifice his life to like have Abigail and Jack have a better life in the future, and then eventually finding the time to kill Ross with basically no repercussions. Like, people have said, oh, someone's gonna be coming after Jack, but it's like he did it in Mexico and he can kind of get around a lot of the laws, so I think Jack should be fine. And like, technically we don't really know how his life turned out after that. I think that's great in its own right, and it is a great ending to the story, and I think John's death is a little bit more important and like better in the game than Arthur's death is done. But I think Red Dead Redemption's 2 endings are way more meaningful than Red Dead Redemption's ending, just because you do have this man Arthur, where one of the greatest characters of all time, if not the greatest like fictional character of all time, gets taken away from you after like helping his best friend get to safety and like out of the outlaw life, at least for a couple years, which is just like beautiful in that way, and kind of turning from this very hardened guy into this like much softer guy. And you finally get to see the culmination of the entire game, which is all about Arthur Morgan's story, and you get to see that man getting taken away from you in a way that, like, you know, his death is going to come soon just because of the tuberculosis. But I'm assuming some people on their first playthrough thought they'd be able to get Arthur out in some way, and like Arthur could survive, and they just don't do that, and they have him literally dying by Micah, I guess, in a way. It's like Micah and the tuberculosis, and I just think that is just such a bad way to die. And it's like, this is, you know, one of the greatest characters of all time, and it's like he gets, I mean, not the greatest ending in my opinion, but he still gets to, you know, kind of clean up his entire life before his death. So I think that's beautiful in its own way. And then when it is American Venom time, you finally get to kill the person who basically killed your best friend. So I think that is just like a perfect thing. And you get to kill the person who killed you, I guess, in your own sense, which is just amazing. And I feel like that's why Red Dead Redemption 2's like 2 endings are so much better than Red Dead Redemption 1's endings, even though Red Dead Redemption 1 does have a great ending in its own right. Red Dead Redemption 2 just takes it to a whole new level. So this ending part is definitely going to have to go to Red Dead Redemption 2. Next thing I'm going to rank is the main antagonists of the 2 games. I'd say in Red Dead Redemption 2 you have Milton and Micah because they're the more overarching antagonists. Some of the other people are like in for a little bit and then out for a little bit. And then in Red Dead Redemption 1, it's definitely Agent Ross because, again, he's like this overarching antagonist that plays through the whole game and in the ending, while like people like Dutch, Javier, Bill, they're only for like little parts of the game. And the same thing with like Dutch in Red Dead Redemption 2. He's not really the antagonist of the game because he doesn't do anything like against Arthur in his own sense. Like, he's never actually against Arthur. He's always just in a weird spot where he's like helping the person that's like the villain of the game. But I think the main antagonists in Red Dead Redemption 2 with Milton and Micah are just a little bit better than Agent Ross in Red Dead Redemption 1 because you do just get a lot more development with the 2 characters. It is great to have Micah like actually be a member of the game the entire time because you get to like learn about Micah and you get to see like why he is such an asshole in his own way, and you get to see him like, I don't know, be nice to Arthur in some points and like, you know, joke and jest around with him like in a more fun way. And I just don't think that Milton or Micah are like some of the more developed characters in the game. Like, there's going to be people like Dutch and a lot of the other people in the gang are way more developed than Micah. And Micah's just like this clearly really, really bad guy. And Milton's more of this like, he's bad in his own way, but like people really overrate his badness because it's like he's literally chasing after a bloodthirsty gang in its own way. It's like you're going to have to get your hands dirty in some way. And he doesn't want to get his hands dirty. He just wants Dutch. But if he is going to get his hands dirty, he's going to go as far as possible. And that's something that kind of Agent Ross plays into in Red Dead Redemption 1, where it's like people are like, oh my God, Milton killed Hosea. He killed a harmless old man. It's like that guy murdered or like was responsible for the murders. And he knew that would probably help him get Dutch later because he knew Hosea and Dutch were like the 2 leaders of the gang. So I think Milton's a pretty good character, Mike is a pretty good character, and Ross just isn't as developed in Red Dead Redemption 1 because you do get to meet him in like the last 2 chapters and actually get to like talk to him and kind of understand him a little bit. And he's just like a bloodthirsty guy, or not like bloodthirsty, but like he's always just gonna use people to the best of their abilities and throw them out when they're not needed anymore. And I mean, that's exactly what he does with John, and he kind of cleans up the ties there because he didn't want to be involved with John as well after the fact. And he didn't want John to like turn on him after the fact. So he just cleans him up. And I think that is just a crazy way because he and Milton, in my opinion, are really similar, where like Ross just kind of takes Milton's stuff because he is Milton's protege in Red Dead Redemption 2. But I don't know. I think clearly Micah and Milton are way better characters than Ross is, just because Ross doesn't get developed as much as they do. And while he is a great character in terms of the whole Red Dead Redemption 1 thing, because like there's not as much time to develop these characters in Red Dead Redemption 1, I think the fact that there are like 2 different antagonists in Red Dead Redemption 2 just makes the game so much better, in my opinion. And you get someone that you actually like get to fight with in Micah, and you actually can do some things to him, like you can cut out his eye if you do play the go back for the money mission. So I think, to me, Milton and Micah are a lot better than Agent Ross, so this one definitely goes to Red Dead Redemption 2. The next category I chose was the main character of the 2 things, and if you guys do want to watch my John versus Arthur video, definitely go check that out. But I think in terms of their game, like, I think Arthur Morgan is the better character, just because Red Dead Redemption 1 isn't about John Marston as much as it is like John Marston getting his kids back and all that, and like the life of an outlaw in that way. And Red Dead Redemption 2 is a story that literally could not be told unless you had Arthur Morgan as the character there. There's nothing else to tell. The whole game is about Arthur Morgan's character and how he turns from this hard guy to this not so hard guy at the end. And it's like, just be a better person in general. Like, that kind of is the moral of Red Dead Redemption 2. And Red Dead Redemption 1 is like, your mistakes are going to catch up to you eventually, in a way, especially if you do like really, really bad things like John did. So I think it's more of that. And I think in the game, like, Arthur is a lot more important to the game of Red Dead Redemption 2, and I think he is the better character, so I think this one also has to go to Red Dead Redemption 2. Last but not least, we have the story of the two games, and I think Red Dead Redemption 1 takes this one, and with the story and gameplay being the most important parts of the game. They did split that, but I think Red Dead Redemption 2's story is so great because in Red Dead Redemption 1, you have a lot more of like a linear, basic kind of game story, and you kind of are playing along with the character. The character knows some other people, but you kind of meet people as it goes, and you get to develop these relationships with these characters. Red Dead Redemption 2 is kind of the exact opposite way, where we already have beef with some of these people. Like, Micah and Arthur already don't like each other starting into the game. Arthur already has stuff with Mary Lynn going on. Arthur and Dutch have this long relationship that goes on for 20 years. Him and Hosea and John. There's already beef going on, and there's already dynamics in relationships that are already at play when the game actually starts. I think that's what makes Red Dead Redemption 2 such a great game, is you're like an onlooker on the outside, seeing what Arthur Morgan does and the person he is, and then you get to become him as you play more and more of the game. And as you get immersed more and more into the world of Red Dead Redemption 2, I think that's what's so good about the game. It's like, a lot of people say there's a really slow start to Red Dead Redemption 2, and I understand that. It's like also like you have to get caught up on so much when the game starts because of this interesting way they, made the game play. It's like GTA 5, there's like a couple characters that or like Michael knows Trevor already, and they have some backstory there, but you kind of learn it as Michael tells it to other people. And I think it's the same thing in Red Dead Redemption 1. You learn it when John, talks to Bill, he talks to Javier, he talks to Dutch, and you learn like what happened with them in their old life when he tells it to other people. And it's not the same thing in Red Dead Redemption 2, because you have to see from the interactions, because he's actually interacting with these people and they're his friends, and you get to see these dynamics play out over the course of the game, and you get to learn what kind of a person Arthur is over the course of a game, and then shape what actions you think he would make as a character. I just think that is so great in its own right, and that's why Red Dead Redemption 2 is one of the best fictional stories ever, because it's just a story of a character, and it goes so hard in that department because it focuses on what it needs to do good in that section, and it shows Arthur becoming a much, much greater person in the general storytelling part. And I don't know, it's just a great story, and I feel like it has to be one of the greatest stories ever told in any fictional medium, because there's so much time to develop these relationships. If you spend time around camp, you get to see these, relationships at play as well. So I don't know, it's just a great story, and I feel like almost nothing could top Red Dead Redemption 2's story, and I don't think Red Dead Redemption 1's story even comes close to that. So clearly here it has to go to Red Dead Redemption 2. And that ends the comparison. We do have Red Dead Redemption 2 with 8 wins and Red Dead Redemption 1 with 3 wins. And I think Red Dead Redemption 1 is still a great game. It still holds a place in my heart, but Red Dead Redemption 2 takes basically every single story element and turns it up to the absolute max. And it's just so much better than Red Dead Redemption 1 in that way. It's also just because, stuff has developed a lot further. You have a lot more like engine power that you can run on. And there's just a lot of developments in the actual video game department. So you could make a much more detailed story and a much longer story, and the whole of Rockstar was working on that. But either way, both games are amazing. But I think Red Dead Redemption 2 is definitely the better game. Thank you guys for making it this far. And if you guys did like this video, there should be some other ones popping up now. So definitely click on those right now.